Wanted to start off this project with my first ever FKT attempt slash submission. That is the Hoodlebug Trail, which is in Pennsylvania. Goes from Blacklick, PA, that's the one near Blairsville, Homer City Way, to Indiana, PA. I did this on May 27th of 2020. So during that COVID time frame, I did this in 2 hours, 54 minutes and 5 seconds. This is a roughly 21-mile trail out and back. Depending on what your watch picks up, it'll be about a tenth off, give or take, but it should be pretty spot on if you start at the right things, which is the yellow gate near Sailor Park and the stop sign at Rose Street. If you touch them and start your watch or your phone there, you should get pretty spot on to that 21-mile distance time frame or whatever you want to call it. But a little history of the Hoodlebug Trail itself. The Hoodlebug Trail is a little over 10-mile recreation and commuter trail running from Blacklick, PA to Indiana, PA. The Hoodlebug Trail is open year-round for non-motorized activities including bicycling, hiking, and cross-country skiing. It's also part of the larger networks in the area in Western PA known as the Trans-Allegheny Trails Network. There's about 10 trails in that whole Trans-Allegheny Trails Network. Some pretty good ones as well if you want to check them out. It goes through multiple towns, and the scenery is mixed. At times you'll be in wooded areas, or along a major road, or just your typical rail trail scenery. So it is hit and miss with the scenery. The surface of the trail is your typical normal rail trail type. You do have a couple intersections you have to go across, but they're not major roads. But there is two red lights that you do have to worry about if you are attempting the FKT, which could slow you down on a busy day, especially the one near Levity Brewing in Indiana. That one could actually stop you for a couple minutes. You can also be ambitious enough to run the Trail, which connects in Blacklick, if you want to get some more miles in. But whatever. Again, it is mostly rail trail, but there is some asphalt sections of the trail. You can go under a couple bridges. There's one little tunnel section. It's maybe like 20 feet long, but nothing too major. It's not really hilly per se, even though on this attempt I got 1,000 feet, give or take. Well, I have 1,027. I really don't think it's that much. On a typical day with my watch back then was not the best. The trail itself follows the abandoned Indiana branch of the Pennsylvania Railroad between Homer City and Indiana, built in the 1850s. The Indiana branch was the first railroad to be constructed in Indiana County. Hoodlebug was a local nickname for the self-propelled passenger coach that ran on the line until 1940. The corridor also was part of the Catawba Path, a Native American trail that extended from the Carolinas to upstate New York. There is a little bit, there's like a caboose or two, Floodway Park in Homer City that has a rail car or two there. You can check out as you're running. Of course, if you're doing the FKT, you can't really stop, but it's there for you to see. In March of 2007, the FMC plant, which was adjacent to the Hoodlebug Trail in Homer City, closed its doors for good. The FMC site was the former home to one of the Prairie State Incubator Company plants. The site involves some very interesting local history. There's a lot of history on this trail. The Prairie State Incubator Company was founded in 1887. Incubators produced at the factory were used for raising chicks from eggs. By 1930, the incubator factory was reported to be the largest in the world. The railroad, now the Hoodlebug Trail, was used to ship incubators to market. Beginning in 1937, the site was home of the Cintron Company and later the FMC Corporation. But you can find more information on the trail itself through the IndianaCountyParks.org or the transalleghenytrails.com. But getting back to the FKT attempt itself, um, again, it's a 10.5 mile route, so 21 miles out and back. Back then, I just submitted the out and back, and that's why I got the 2 hours, 54 minutes, and 5 seconds. I did the whole 21 miles out by myself, unsupported. Back then, I just had like a cheaper Nathan vest, so I had about 40 ounces on me. Well, here's the report that I submitted for this. I got a lot better with submitting reports between now and then. Decided to run the Hoodlebug Trail in its entirety, which is 10.5 miles. Since I had no support or vehicle at the other end, I did it as an out and back, giving me 21 miles. I did it unsupported. I did lose some time taking pictures along the trail, but I got it done. It's a mixed bag that you encounter on the trail, some woods, small town, and some history. Not hard to follow. It's rail trail, so you can't really get lost. It was kind of hot and I wore my hydration vest with about 40 ounces of liquid in it. There's only a few people walking on the trail that day and a couple bikes. It was in the middle of the week and not a busy weekend, so I had an open trail to use. Got a little tired towards the end and was running low on liquids, so had to conserve some. Not much else to speak of, but there was a lot of history on the trail. Again, I only took 40 ounces, as the thing said, with me on the day, and it was a hot day. I do remember that. I was a little bit overdressed. I think it was 75, 80 degrees that day. Um, so a pretty good hot day. Let's see if Garmin has any information on that. Um, well, getting back to the Garmin, it says my average pace was 8 minutes and 17 seconds. Uh, it's not, sometimes it get, oh, all right, here it is, 77 and sunny is what Garmin's saying for that day. Um, so pretty good hot day because this trail, I would say, is pretty exposed to the sun. I would say a good 70% of it is exposed, especially in that earlier sections. Um, you don't have much shade as you're running around like, what is it, 219 or something along the road, parallel to the road from like, yeah, from Blacklick to Homer City Way. You're pretty much in the open for the most part. There's few trees, but nothing that really shades you. And then the way the sun hits it and it's being exposed, the valley doesn't protect you at all either. So you're really out there getting the elements, and the sun just radiates heat from the rail trail as well. So you're getting it from the top and below. Um, so yeah, it's definitely not the coolest as in temperature wise trail or shadiest to attempt. As you see in the background, I'll move my head a little bit. That's just this isn't just the typical part. This is actually like the rose um, end of the trail where this picture is, as you see in the top here. Um, oh, yeah, let me see if I can do this right. You see, this is the far end what I ran to on that day because it's saying Sailor Park is 10 and a half miles away. So this is like the very end of the trail. There's also a stop sign and a blue Hoodlebug Trail sign right after this. Like it would be um, behind you if you're looking at this sign. That's what you got to touch to do the FKT. And like there's a road right there and an old hosses. So the trail really ends there. It does extend like another mile or so going into IUP college campus. But locally, we consider this the end of the trail, and this is technically the end of the Hoodlebug Trail. That extra mile is not really part of the Hoodlebug Trail itself. So keep that in mind. Um, if you're going to do the FKT, you want to stop at Rose Street where the old hosses is and 10.5 miles into your attempt. You don't want to keep going into the IUP area because then your mileage and time is going to be definitely off. I'm trying to think, give you a little more history or what you're going to encounter. So when you start, you're going to park at Well, I would highly recommend parking at Sailor Park because there's really no parking at Rose Street unless you park at IUP and you do that mile in first before starting. But I would recommend parking at Sailor Park, walking up the 10th around the bend on the bridge where the Hoodlebug Trail actually starts. Sailor Park is also where Ghost Town Trail Mile Zero is. Um, but anyway, you touch the yellow sign or the yellow gate there that's right along the road. There's two more other gates, like at, I don't know, 50 to 100 yards on the trail, but you want to touch this first one. It's right along the road to give you mile zero. There actually should be a sign there, but there's really not. Um, and then you do a quick tenth or two flat, and then you dip down, go under the like 219 bridge. I think that's the road. Um, and this is where you got probably 10% of your shade is in this next half mile or so, and then you're exposed for the next 3 to 4 miles as you go into Homer City. And it's again, it's basically wide open, but you do see some baseball fields, some businesses, some uh, houses along the way. But so you do have to watch a little bit by those houses because there is driveways that do cross the road. So just be cognizant of what you're doing and nobody's pulling out real fast. If you're going real fast, just give a quick glance to the left-hand side. Same with the business because there is a couple businesses there, but the traffic is very light. Um, and even at that first red light, trying to think which one's that. Uh, we'll just call it like uh, Lloyd Street or Coral Grayson. Yeah, Coral Grayson area, which is like 2.5 miles in. Um, you can pretty much run across that because there's really not much traffic turning in. The one that you do have to worry about is uh, the one by Levity Brewing, which is what, probably about 9.5 miles in, because that's an actual busy intersection. And again, it will or could stop you for 2 minutes. Um, there's really not any potholes or divots. There's some little cracks um, in the rail trail system itself. Um, and if you ride the edges a little bit, uh, it's a little bit shaky. But if you run down the normal worn path, you're going to be pretty fine both directions, unless it's a very rainy um, time of year. It might be a little bit wet, and if it's course is a little bit wet, um, some of that rail trail does stick to your feet. If you ever ran rail trail, you know what I'm talking about. But other than that, um, this is one of the first couple ones that I did, so I really don't have any clips or pictures to show at the end. That's why I'm giving more of a history. Um, but this trail itself, since it does connect to Indiana and IUP, it can get busy on that farther end. We'll say near the Homer City area. Um, so be wary of that. Most of the traffic is going to come from like the Homer City towards the Indiana way part of the trail. So uh, basically the last 4 miles out, 4.5 out, that's when you're really going to start to see more traffic than you do at the Sailor Park. There's not too much traffic from Sailor Park to Homer City. You're going to get um, a person here or there, even on busy days, a few bikes doing the whole trail. Um, but once you get to that Homer City area, you might encounter, a good 40 to 50 people on a busy day just running that 4.5 mile section. Um, so it is a little bit better if you're going to do the FKT during the week or late in the afternoon, because the trail itself does get busier in the morning and like a Saturday or Sunday morning than it does, say, at Tuesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Um, other than that, can learn a lot of the history along the trail. There's some signage. Uh, you got sheets in Homer City that if you need any support, um, you can get it there. So then it would become a supported FKT. Um, there is a couple porta johns. I'd like to tell you where they are. Trying to think. Um, yeah, there's one like 3/10 after sheets. So about 6.5 into the FKT. There's a portage on there. Um, there's one other one I can't remember offhand where it's at. Um, I mean, if you do some research, you'll be able to find out if you ask some questions. But there is one portage on, um, so you don't have to use sheets, and you can keep it an unsupported FKT. But you just have to plan ahead. There is a few spots that you could if you just have to pee against a tree if you're a guy, or maybe squat behind one if you a woman that's willing to do so. But overall, it's a nice trail. Again, it's hot. I consider this a hot trail because it's just so exposed. So, like in the middle of summer, it's really um, shitty if it's an 80, 90 degree days. You're really going to get a good workout. Um, Other than that, this attempt don't really have much else to say. I know back then I wasn't as in shape or, you know, knowledgeable for the longer distances. So I might have to go and do this FKT again. It is beatable for 21 miles, basically 3 hours. It's not a great time. As I said, 18 minutes and 17 seconds. But again, I was unsupported, only carried 40 ounces on me, so I had to um, be wise towards the end and conserve a little bit. Um, but you can turn and burn a little bit, and there is a lot of spots um, along the trail where if you want to do this supported and have somebody follow you along, either on a bike um, or just meet you at certain intersections or uh, trailheads, because there is quite a few trailheads as well. They can hand water off to you, so you don't have to carry as much with you. So that is one advantage of the trail. But don't know what else to say about this one because it was 5 years ago, and I don't really have um, yeah, a lot of footage or a lot of things written down because this was my first one, so I didn't really know what to say or do about it. But uh, yeah, had a good time. I would say it's a good time for me on a hot day. Um, and I would do it again. I have ran this trail um, in sections uh, throughout the last 5 years, just not the whole thing again um, until this actually like this past weekend, which I'll get to in a couple weeks. But yeah, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. So this was my first ever FKT, and I promise some of these will get better um, in the reports and talking about the FKT projects down the road.